Hello, I am David W. Brucker. This is Programming Today I Learned, WebGL series, episode 103. This is part 3 of looking at complex objects, where today we're going to be fixing our textures as well as our rotations. So you can see here in initialization, this is the older one from the last episode. We had added the cube and we had the basic thing. This time we also have a couple of extra lines here commented out for scaling and translation. And as you can see, we have our regular object here. And we are now able to scale and translate it. If we refreshes, loading. Oh, I have a comma missing. Sorry. Try that again. So you can see it's over here translated and now scaled respectively. So we can do interesting things with the object as the whole now, and not just individual components. That was also missing in the last one. So let's go ahead and see what's changed here. So as we jump back and forth between the two files, I might be going a little quick, so pause whenever you need to look, focus, and also go ahead and just check out the code and see it for yourself on GitHub. So the first thing is we've just removed a couple of things, the GL and the programs, from the basic thing. Those aren't really necessary, but they're pretty standard, so we may just keep them in future episodes, but just wanted to show you they're there. Here's the texture that wasn't showing and the angle from before. And as you can already see, we have a texture as well as an angle for each of those. So those are clearly working. Next thing you know is we'll just step out into the read state here. We're not using the render mode for this actual basic thing, so there's no real reason to set that. And the render draw is actually being drawn when we're doing the mouse movement things, so we don't necessarily need to double render and draw it there as well. If we removed it from one or the other, we might want to add it back. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but we don't necessarily need to call functions more often than necessary. Scrolling down, you'll see the big change is that we no longer have any of this extra code to iterate through our components to draw each individual one. Instead, all we have in the entirety of the draw function is a model matrix that's computed for the basic thing, and then we're going to loop through each component and just call its draw. We've also respectively updated the draw function, taken the component for this, or the model matrix for the parent. So if we were going to go ahead and look at the 103 cube here, and we're going to scroll down to the draw, you can see that we're setting it model matrix here, and this is the default parameter. So this is with ES 2015, I believe. And so if MM is not created or sent in, then we're going to go ahead and automatically create MM4. Otherwise, it's going to take in what is sent. So that allows us to do things like still having the cube render itself, but not necessarily have a parent that is passing it its draw function here. So we still have the cube, and that still works just fine. But we also have this other basic thing, which is two cubes combined, and that also works. So what does this allow us to do? Well, this sets the model matrix for the object in its entirety, which allows it to be translated and scaled, which we could not do before, as well as stating the state, angle, and computing that before passing it to the individual object here, which is allowed to also have its own rotation, which is why it's able to have its own angle now. And the other thing is, of course, when we're doing this, it all moves as one now. So it's really, really nice. Everything seems to be working at the moment. So we'll continue to explore what other improvements we need to be making to this code. The last thing I guess I'll just go ahead and wrap up is we just removed a lot of things from the state that we don't really have right now, and we may add back at future episodes, such as blending and sending the render mode and all that kind of stuff, like I said, but we're not using that because all of that is controlled by its individual object itself. So that's it for this episode. If you like what you saw, go ahead and subscribe and give a like. Share this on social media if you will, and go to ProgrammingTIL.com and sign up for my newsletter. Have a great one. Thanks.